4 of our 5 counselors. We do not have a Counselor Moody tonight. And now it's time for the open forum. So if you have anything that you'd like to share with the council, now is the time to come forward and share it. So the forum is open. Anybody? Bueller? Come on up to let us know who you are and go for it.
Hello, I'm Adriana Brisson. I am just here to read a letter on behalf of North Superior Fishery, who is one of the leaseholders of North House Folk School. So it says this: Dear Grand Marais City Council members, we want to offer our support on the North House Folk School land purchase proposal. At the last City Planning and Zoning meeting, we shared with the committee and North House our concerns with their proposed building plan and implications of the proposed variance. Since that meeting, we have discussed our concerns with North House and have also discussed the possibilities of long-term lease agreements for dock, storage, etc. This fall, we will come up with a lease agreement suitable for both parties and are anxious to get that executed. Another concern that we addressed was the protection and restoration of the Scott Fish House. We are pleased to hear that North House is committed to protect this historical landmark and create a learning opportunity for residents and visitors about our rich commercial fishing history in Cook County. With the possibility of North House purchasing the land they currently lease, allows them the opportunity to reconfigure their building structures to meet their current needs. North Superior Fishery will be paying close attention to the new plans and will not hesitate to appear before the City Council, City Planning and Zoning in support of North House or to offer suggestions to better serve the parties impacted by the physical changes of the North House properties. It is important to us as small businesses and residents of Cook County that we ensure our community and fellow business owners the best opportunity possible for success, all while protecting our history and remaining good stewards of Lake Superior and the shorelines it inhabits. We appreciate your attention to this matter and welcome any questions from the council members. Thank you, North Superior Fishery.
Wonderful. All right, thank you. Thank you, Adriana.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Forum?
There's one chair, but there's 2 people, so.
You can grab another one. You can grab
It's very
we've
short,
got more
but like,
chairs.
she'll be in them.
Anton's not here for orphans.
Yeah, it's,
Got
hey.
an orphan chair there, so.
Hello, my name is Laura Scott. I'm here with my sister, Sarah Scott. We asked and advocated for North House as a family to not move the Scott Fish House in order to preserve the fishing heritage of the community. From the Scott family perspective and from others who shared history, especially in the North House webinar in January on the Scott Fish House, it was built by Jim Scott in 1907, over 115 years ago. He organized the Great Shore Cooperative Fish Association as well as helped start the North Shore Trucking Association. Jim, as well as his brother Ben Scott, and our grandfather Roger, Jim was our great-grandfather, were integral in the early start of the commercial fishing business and life in the county. When our father, Terry Scott, and Aunt Raleigh King sold our Scott property to Dick Eckel, it was under the promise that they would use it for preserving the fishing community. And as then Harley and Shelley Tofty did as well, before it was sold to North House Folk School in 2018. North House listened, they heard us, and other many voices in the community, including the tribal communities, and they came up with a solution that helps all involved and will help to preserve the commercial fishing industry. We support the North House proposal to buy the land and they currently lease from the city.
Anything else?
And one more thing.
Well, she's been sitting there.
Yeah, she was.
She looked like she wanted to say something.
Yeah,
Okay. I just wanted to add that I think it's an amazing opportunity to just tell a story and hear stories of community members from many different backgrounds. A lot of people are invested in this and have feelings about it. And I think it's a way that we can really give voice to a lot of people in telling the story of the history of Grand Marais, which is an honor to be here today just to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, cool.
I will add one last thing.
Oh.
Thank you, Sarah. When the North House bought the property in 2018, no names involved, they were recommended that the fish house could be taken care of. You could just remove it from the property. And the North House said, no, that is, a gem. We want to keep it here. So they chose to do that, and it has brought us to where we are today. So I'll just say that as well. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, come on up, just orderly fashion.
As orderly as we are.
Hi, I'm Jane Alexander. I am a resident of Grand Marais, have been since 2016, and I've had a seasonal property here since the year 2000. And I just wanted to share a story because I think sometimes we get so lost in the details of these really difficult decisions, and we forget sort of about the magic of some of these decisions. And I wanted to share a story about my husband and my decision to retire up here. We decided in 2016 that we were ready for retirement, and we considered maybe 7 or 8 different communities around the country. The common thread in all of them was, they were all outdoor wilderness playgrounds, and we loved that. But when we started to make pros and cons lists, at the very top of the pro list for Grand Marais was North House. And it's not because we always wanted to be timber frame experts or learn how to felt little, toys, or it had nothing to do with that. But we recognized right off the bat that North House is a convener of community. And I don't know how many of you just in the last few weeks stood on the shores of our beautiful harbor for the summer solstice pageant, or how many people went to the chowder feed and saw, people from all walks of life in this community there smiling together. I don't think we should underestimate that. And I wanted to just point out that a lot of the stuff that I've seen on social media is really focused on the tax issue. Well, we're not-for-profit, and the reason the U.S. tax code allows people to have, or encourages tax incentives for not-for-profits is to take up a lot of slack. We wouldn't have anywhere near the social services, the arts, or educational institutions in this country if it weren't for the tax code. And yes, it's true that if the city decides to move forward and look at other people to purchase the property, you could have a for-profit entity do that. But as someone who was a management consultant for 40 years working with both not-for-profit and for-profit organizations, I just really want us to be careful what we wish for, because a for-profit entity's motive is profit. It's pure profit, and their number one concern will be getting a return on investment for their investors, whether they're public or private investors. North House's primary motive is community. I mean, that is in our mission. We're about community building, and I would hate to think of of a Grand Marais without a North House, and I just wanted to just put that out in the universe. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jane. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Yep, come on up.
Hi guys. I'm Steph Radloff, and I born and raised here in Cook County. I know I'm probably on the other side of the fence, but I am against the proposal for the simple fact that I think getting rid of any city land is never a great idea. I know that North House is a great entity. They do a lot of great things for the county, but once you look into this, and if you were to sell it, you're not going to get it back. If you ever do sell it, I've read through the lease, there is a right of first refusal, so North House would have that on the land, so they would be the first ones to get the option to buy it. I think it would be best interest of the city to look at maybe updating that lease agreement, getting more with the times. I know that the fees that are charged are very low compared to, let's just attribute it to, my husband and I, we have a boat that we dock in the marina all summer long and pay close to $2,000. And we also put a camper in the campground for the season. And then I also have my mother-in-law who has one in the campground for the season. So between just my family alone, we're paying close to $10,000 for a summer season in the marina, whereas that's more than double what they pay for rent. So I just don't want to see the city go jump right into this and then you can never go back. I want my grandchildren to be able to enjoy the same marina that I enjoy right now with my kids. And what happens one day if they do want to expand? The city campground, I mean, they're full all the time. What if they want to expand? You don't have that land anymore. You don't have that lake shore to add more dock space because you sold it. But in a lease agreement, at least you can come back and say, well, we need to look at what is best for the city and go from there. So I know I'm on the other side of the fence here than everybody probably in the room, but that's how I feel. And I just wanted you guys to know and look at it from all sides and not just the side that, yes, this would be a great deal for them, and the other, like the fishermen and dockside and everything, it would be great for them. But you also have a community and a county of close to 5,000 people that you got to think about, and not just the small ones in there as well. So,
All right, thanks, Steph.
thank you.
We're all on the same side. We're all trying to do what's right,
Thank you.
right by the community. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Tina Hagrawe. I'm a local business owner, and I'm on the North House Board as well. So I've been through our process that we've gone through so far with listening sessions, with this new proposal. And I have some thoughts, contrasting thoughts about the business case for the property, for the city. After reviewing what's in the lease, it seems as though we have 6 years left on the lease, and then it will auto-renew for 25 years, and that will be a total of 31 years for us to be on the property, regardless of whether we make any moves or not. I understand that lease is likely to transfer to any future buyer. The current payments are $4,710 a year, and they increase 2% per year. So if you put that into a calculator, you'll see that with the current agreement, the city would receive about $166,000 spread out over the next 31 years. And if the city were to sell the property, which is currently appraised at $1.2 million, then the city would receive that money now. So to me, it is a bit of a simple math problem in terms of the city's advantage. You can choose $166,000 spread out over 31 years, or you could choose $1.2 million, or more than that, whatever it appraises for. I'm guessing not less than that. You could choose that now. But either way, North House will be there per the lease. A lease can't be changed without both parties' approval. So whether the city wants to look at something different, it's a two-way discussion. So what North House is asking for is to initiate an appraisal and a discussion. So I just wanted to point out the math. That's what I do for a living, for everybody to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. All right. I'm going to close the open forum. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Oh, well, I mean, we did receive some emails, several that were in favor, and a couple that were not, or that asked other questions. So I'll just mention right now that we have those. I don't think that we necessarily need to read them because they did not say specifically to have that entered into the public record, but those are part of the consideration. So those are not, they've been received, they've been collected. I just want to make sure that that's clear. All right, so we're going to move on. Is that good? All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. So the consent agenda has 3 items. I propose we add this, the Lions Club
Permit?
beer garden permit to the consent agenda. We can, of course, pull that for conversation if necessary. Otherwise, it would be the typical 3 items: the approval of this meeting's agenda, previous meeting minutes, and then the payment of bills in addition to the beer garden permit. Someone would entertain a motion, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Yeah, I would move to accept it with the addition
Yep.
of the, yeah,
There you go.
with the addition
All right,
of that.
the motion to accept as amended, is there a second?
No, but I have my little laundry list here tonight. Can I just talk about it when it's my turn later?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Super. That's why we give all the staff or council and staff reports.
Yeah.
All right, so that wasn't a second, that was just to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so is there a second for the consent agenda?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? I'm sure a lot of people will be excited to see the beer garden coming back this year.
Yes.
I'll have to go down too. All right, any other conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda carries. Time for the Planning Commission report. All right, so 3 things on the Planning Commission report. We've got 1 resolution and 2 ordinances that we're taking a look at. One is for a variance for GES. This is for construction of a multi-use building. I don't know if you want to give us a breakdown of how the conversation went for that, Michael. I'm assuming you were there because it was a 5-0 vote.
Yeah, no, it was, we did talk about, oh, yeah, actually, I remember. So it says here that it was 5-0, but it was not.
Oh.
It was 4-1. With Commissioner Hawkins voting nay.
Okay.
But yeah, we went through it, and I
Get that,
guess.
Kim? Okay.
Yeah, so we went through the ordinance, and like it says, the building that they're going to replace with another building kind of makes sense. And so that's kind of what everybody saw. It's like, okay, well, it's not really a street. Maybe someday it might be a street there, but it's not. And where the building is, really seemed like even if that came to pass, there might be ways to address it, like a fence or something, for the school. Because I think that Hawkins was saying that she felt that it was just too close to the road, flat out. I mean, that was her objection, and that's why she voted against it.
Too close to the
Well,
Gunflint?
well, no, because if you look at it, there's the road that is not there. That's between them and Steve's.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, which is just woods at this point, and I'm not sure that I would expect that that would ever change. But I went walking through there today just to kind of look at it and see, and I absolutely understand what Stacy was saying, but I still think it makes sense for going forward. And I did ask during that meeting, were there other places we could put it? Could it go here? Could it go there? And they luckily had some little buildings that we could move around, and it was, not really. Couldn't. So it seemed like that was the best placement for it.
Best placement for it. Okay. Any other questions? I mean, we do have members of the foundation here that
Yeah.
can answer any questions for us if we have them. When I look at it, and I mean, of course, the 4-1 is different than a 5-0, but
Right.
it still means that what was being looked at was heavily in favor of. The findings, those are the ones that things that really stick with me,
Yeah.
and they seem like they're the best use of the property. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or any strong feelings either way on this resolution. Thoughts?
No,
No?
I drive by there, I see all the nice little extra add-on buildings to get by, and if this helps make a permanent structure to help, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Then I would actually move that forward, the Resolution 2022-13.
Okay, so the motion for resolution 2022-13, GES setback variance. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I know that GES has worked through a number of different plans, and so seeing plans in the works and seeing them at this point where they could be a variance, so they could start breaking ground, is exciting, I
Yeah.
think. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed?
I've had a lot, my hair looked like yours and was thicker before. It started just brushing.
Yeah, for real. Well, now it's on its way. It's on its way, Howard. All right, so the resolution carries. So we'll be in touch with you about the variance, and look forward to seeing the ground being mixed up. So,
Yeah. Thanks.
all right, so moving right along on what we have two ordinances here. We're bringing these back, or bringing one of them back from a previous conversation, 2022-02, which is the residential use in the BDA. So this is a conversation that we started much earlier in the year. I believe it was, February that we started talking about this?
I think they might have, that was, they came to planning and zoning in December, but anyway, yes.
Yeah, I think we talked about it
Yeah,
in
right.
January or February. Maybe it was January. So the concerns that were brought up about the way that it was written was that we felt it was not restrictive enough to eliminate vacation rental use. And the purpose of changing this ordinance to allow for residences in the BDA area is exactly for that, for residences for people who want to live and work here, and not for vacation rentals, not for people who are doing overnight or short-term rentals.
Or, I'll add to that, that aren't seeking that as an inexpensive piece of property to build a personal residence on either, with a minor,
Yeah.
purpose of, and I'll put a little mini business in here.
Right.
Because
Okay.
we now know times have flipped, and these are now very affordable lots with infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
So I'd say that was an add-on as well, too.
Yep.
Yeah, and you did see that language in there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's, so this is the response from the Planning and Zoning, or the Planning Commission to formalize that language. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read through it. We can break it down a little bit if we need to. I've read through it, and it, to me, when I read through it, it seems like I can't imagine a situation where you could sneak something by with the way that it's currently written, but also that's not something that I currently think about a lot. So
Put your thinking cap on a lot about that one.
Yeah.
I think the other piece too, which I've mentioned before, is, this is a business development park. It's not for residential.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I've seen way too much activity over the last few years focused on safe sidewalks, safe walking, safe light, It's a business park. I don't want to see a bunch of investment in there on sidewalks and lighting and other things for residential. And I don't want to see conflicts over people trying to live there versus somebody trying to run a business, which is typically a business that is not maybe down here in storefront, with people. And it may not be a totally attractive business. It might have stuff people don't want to see. It might have noises, whatever. And that's why it's over there. So if that were to lead to conflicts in the future, that would not be a really good thing. That's why we have zoning.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another motivator for me. And I brought that up, but not because I support putting in sidewalks and all those things in there, it's because I don't.
I get it as the concern, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. That a business park is not necessarily intended to be a neighborhood, as our residential zone is.
May I say something?
Yeah, come on up, Beth. You're kind of the one who's helping us push this, so you're technically on the agenda. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind the city council, and you may have studied up on this and you may not have, but the purpose of the business park, the purpose statement of the business park was rewritten in 2020. And I'd like to read it just quickly. The purpose of the Business Development Area District is to enable the creation or expansion of a variety of businesses that enhance the community through job creation and retention, economic activity, property tax and utility support, and the provision of services valued by the community. The BDA is characterized by a variety of types of small businesses, including live-work space where appropriate, that benefit from the setting separated from established residential and commercial areas. This was passed by the council, like I said, in 2020, and I believe that this process that we're going through right now is the process that follows kind of the repurposing of that area. And so we are now aligning the uses with the purpose of the business park. To kind of talk about the original purpose of the business park as a business park, it kind of goes the way as you think of a business industrial park, and we've seen them all over the place, different business parks, and they're not really characterized by trees and Lake Superior views, and just the beautiful land that the business park is. But the business park covenants require us to keep lots of trees in the area. They require us to think about what is going into the area so that it fits into the property, so that not all the trees are cut down. It seems like the intent of the covenants in the business park are to create kind of a more wooded and forested kind of area where we can have businesses do business, and not something where you might mow down all the trees and pave over the entire thing. So this is a little different, as Grand Marais does a lot of things. We know that this will bring housing to the area because we have heard from how people who own lots in the business park saying that immediately upon change of this, we want to build workforce housing so that we can bring in more workers, especially the tradesmen. And the example I used, which is just, an example is if the electric company wants to hire more electricians so that they can come to your house and fix your electricity, they'll be able to house them. And so I think that this is a little bit divergent from what a lot of other business parks may seem to look like, but it's because of where it is and what it is and what we have here, the environment we have here, the economic environment we have here, and who wants to do business here. And so as for safety, yes, those are concerns, and I would imagine that we would want to address the concerns if they became a problem, especially an especially easy one is traffic. It's like we make a sidewalk on one side of the road, we make it one way, and we direct traffic all to go to the same way, and that would seem to make room for walking and things like that. With the kind of the idea from the Planning Commission and through working with Mike and all of the people who have had the ordinance through their fingers, it's gone through at least a dozen people's email boxes when rewriting. The conditional use permit solves everything. It allows for property owners, lot owners, to live on their lot. It allows us to be able to put housing in there if we need it, but you have a say of who goes what. It's conditional. It's like, you want to put 30 houses here and this and that, and you can say no, But an owner should have the ability to be able to live on this property because of the way that the purpose statement has been revised, and we appreciate your consideration. I speak just as the EDA director with this before you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. And I think
I can answer questions
to make, and I think I'm remembering this right, is we decided that the owner-occupied resident will be attached correct, or above? Or did we left it that way, right? We didn't change that. So it's not like there's going to be an additional building on the property. It's just above the
Or
side.
attached. Yep.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
I
were a
see
couple
that
people.
second story attached to the side of the
Yeah,
building.
so clearly, if they're there in the business park, they're going to be on the business, you know? They're not going to have some away space.
And for discussions purposes and the way that this needs to progress through, so this is technically the first reading of this new ordinance that we've been working on. So if we were to approve this for tonight, then it would not go into effect until the second reading, which could potentially be at the next meeting. So that's where we are. Any additional questions for Beth on this? Any strong feelings about ordinance number 2022-2?
I'd like to hear from you, Tracy, just to see if we hit the marks. Seems like it's been through a lot of discussion within, everybody, and I feel like we got there, and I'm just wondering if you were feeling the same way.
Yeah, I did read through it before, and it feels a lot closer. The only, which isn't, everyone says, oh, I want to get housing for my staff. And it may be this or maybe other things. But you don't know if your staff needs a one-bedroom apartment or they have 3 kids and they need a full house. And you don't know for how long. And then you don't know how long they're your employee. And then they have to be an employee for somebody else and they need housing and do they have to move out then? I mean, it's not really about this project, but just a bigger thing. I think about that all the time when I hear people or another business say, well, I'm going to build employee housing. You don't know what they need and you don't know how long they're going to be there or if you're going to hit what they need.
Yeah.
So I'm not always sure. We're so caught up in this, but I don't know if it solves many problems.
Well, I also would advocate that I don't think that's the city's job. Like, I think
Right.
it's the city's job to remove the barriers so that the business
it's
people
just the
can use their own
perception
expertise
Yeah.
to
somehow
make
we're
decisions
doing
for
that.
their own
Got it.
own
Yeah.
businesses.
No, I get it.
That's
Yeah.
Right.
that's what my take is on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hear that and I think, okay, but I don't know if we do. And you're right, it's a perception. And I think that's a perfect example of it, because then when he was done, and he gets the house he really wants or whatever, which is all fine, and it turns out he does have staff to go in apparently, but, where does it end up? Or whatever.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we're sending it back for more thought? What are we gonna do with this? Or are we? Or is this close
I
enough?
don't know. I feel like this is pretty close, but Craig, did you have any thoughts?
Well, I think, thinking back, when we kicked this back, that was
Yeah.
the reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another part of the reason was, I think we were having people going to build residential housing before business,
Mm-hmm.
and we're
Right.
trying to avoid that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what the purpose of this was to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's,
I think it
That was a-
accomplishes that.
yeah.
Yeah, it
I mean,
clearly
that's
does
that
that
was the
piece.
main concern last time we
Yeah.
kicked this
Right.
back.
Yeah.
So just to avoid the abuse of the properties up
Right.
there and
Yeah.
to
And to
keep,
have
like
like
what you're
a,
saying, Beth, like to keep that purpose statement, the goal of what the business park is actually seeking
Right.
to do.
and we don't get a faux business with all that housing or something.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm seeing when I walk the dogs up there, but it's like, who's living back up in there? With campers and little tent things and, okay, well, what business is this?
That's a good
I don't know
question.
what's going
I don't
on.
know the answer.
Yeah.
She would know the answer. Different conversation.
Different. Yes.
You know what's in the development agreement?
Yep, that's
Well,
right.
these past 2 years, you don't ever know what's going on when you see a camper in the woods, so.
Yeah, this is
This
true.
is also true. All right, ordinance 2022-02. Well, I'll make the motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2022-02. So is there a second for that?
I would second that. for sure.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Chris offered a few suggestions, and I
Oh,
have
he
a
did?
question or two.
Excellent.
So,
All right.
the second reading will have some slight changes to it. I don't think any of them are policy
Just
level
legalese
changes.
type things?
Well, there's some language that should be cleaned up in terms of whether it's clear how we're going to apply the conditional use standards that are in there. So I'll work
Okay.
with Chris on figuring out a good way to do that. But he also asked a question that was asked and discussed at the Planning Commission. Do we want to have some sort of codified standards about what do we mean when we say, the number of residents working on site versus off site? Do we want a standard for that, or are we just going to look at that issue? And of course, it's easier for us legally to have this in the code if we put a standard in there. But we don't know what it was. And my impression of the Planning Commission was
Yeah.
they didn't know what it was either, and they didn't want to get themselves in a situation they felt like they were in with the accessory dwelling unit question when the first time they hear about it, somebody's asking for a variance that seems perfectly reasonable because they put a standard in place, or the two standards in place. And so maybe no standards is okay, and we'll figure it out as we go is the strategy, but something that
it would
Chris
be-
is asking us to think about again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate for having Chris make some suggestions on that, but that would be, or
Those are
examples.
all policy questions, not legal questions. His legal question is, do you want them?
right.
That what they are is entirely up to you. Then he has some other points. We used the term long-term rental housing in the ordinance, but we don't define it anywhere in the ordinance. And so we might need to switch that up. I think we can
Gotcha.
just change it to from long-term rental housing to dwelling units, which is in the ordinance. So we'll put that in the next reading and see how that reads when you get a chance to look at it.
Could we get thanks, Chris, for doing this, but I wish I would seen that or been known before now.
Yeah.
If this was your one and only chance at this, then we probably would have done a review of this and had him write this stuff up before, because you get 2 readings. This is a great opportunity to.
Yeah, but we only got 2 weeks to figure this out then, right? Because then we're up to second reading, is that what you're saying?
You can have as much time as you want.
We can take as long as we
We
want.
don't have
Oh,
to do
okay.
it.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it immediately. And
Oh.
and what I'm reading the first, or what if I'm reading the first reading? What I am thinking of the first reading as is basically we're getting close. Like we're getting where we want to be. Yeah, thanks. We're getting where we want to be with the language, and that now we just have to fine tune.
Right.
And so there's some fine tuning with it that we can do. And if it changes the meaning, then we can talk about that.
That's fine.
Oh,
That's great.
So
I welcome some more thoughts about this.
Yep.
And I definitely want that defined, because that's been our problem before. And
mhm.
you got
Yeah.
people not living in the spirit of it right now.
Right.
So
For
we
sure.
need to get a better handle on that.
Did I miss anything, Chris?
No, that kind of covers it.
Great.
And I think when we were talking about that piece, if I remember right, it was not wanting to, wanting to have the ability to say yes and no about things, but still wanting to see what do people do? What are people going to bring forward to us? How do we even know? I mean, let them be the creative entrepreneur and come to us, and we have a say, so we get to stop them and say like, okay, well, that sounds crazy. And I think that was more where we were wanting to be. And it's a pain, but then that would give us more data to start creating something like, okay, here are the standards that we really want to have.
If we can, if enough times people ask the question that you think now you know what the standards are, sure, but I don't expect that to ever happen.
No,
And so it's more like what you were saying before. You get a chance to say yes or no, but you're not really being prescriptive about what you want to see because you're not sure.
Right.
Do we have examples from other cities, Chris? Do you have?
I didn't draft this, so this was drafted by others, and I saw it last Friday. So I commented when I saw it for the first time on Friday.
Okay. I just meant of what we could do. Do you have what we?
It's for like a business park arrangement for people living in a business park kind of thing? Residences in a business
For some
park?
of the clarifications we're talking about putting in right now, because there's something we can look to, as opposed to, as you're suggesting, you just figure it out.
Do we have
each
anything
time as
already
an
in our
ad.
ordinance that we're already?
Yeah, I think where he's looking for clarifications, we have what we need to make that happen. Where he was asking about standards, that would be somewhere where you might want to look. So if standards is something you're interested in pursuing, we can do some more research on that.
Can you summarize this and send it out to the council sometime in the next, I mean, I want to have at least a week to sit with this stuff, like sometime within the next week, so that we have time to look at the suggestions that Chris made, and then more than just when we get the packet, you know, like we get the packet on Friday night, meetings on Wednesday, like that kind of a thing. I would appreciate a couple more days to look at the suggestions, make sure that we know what we're doing.
A summary,
Is that
one
possible?
page or two, if you'd like. I'd love to share it with you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not absolutely 100% clean, but it's a good representation of what I would like to say.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We're still discussing. Is there anything else? You have it right there, that's it right there. Well, you may as well send it around if you got it. Let's not focus on this right now. Let's focus on the language that we have and the awareness that we have time to adjust, time to consider suggestions from Chris and from Bethany and then. All right, so I'm going to ask one more time for more discussion. Hearing none, call it to a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, first reading approved, so either be next meeting or the meeting after that, depending on how the conversation at the council level goes. If we need more time, we'll take more time. Otherwise, we'll have it on the next agenda, see what happens.
Great. Thank you, counselors.
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah, thanks, Beth.
Okay, one more. All right, so this one, this is ordinance 2022-03, and so this is basically, and I mean, jump in any time here. This is a redefining of the service commercial CI, commercial industrial zone, into a highway mixed use district. This rides on the heels of the HKGI analysis that was done of residential and different uses throughout the city, and they found that the commercial industrial district is the kind of the weak link, that it is not being used heavily for what it was designed for, and so we looked at what can it potentially be used for. This is what we got at. So if you look through the strike through copy that we have, a lot of the existing uses are still being considered. It just includes a chunk of uses that come from the residential zone. And then thus permitted accessory uses and the setbacks that we have on future pages. So that is a high-level introduction of it. I don't know if you want to get more into the details with it, or Mike, if you have anything to add. This is a reaction to us seeing that the commercial industrial uses zone is not being used to the extent that we want it to be.
And I think one of the things, one of the precipitating moments was the Hamilton house that wanted to build, but then we found out, oh, we have got all these problems. And so that was kind of where it initiated from. That really got everything rolling. And once we really started looking at the zone and what was happening in the zone and what people wanted to do in the zone, it was like, okay, well, we can tweak this and make it, we want to make, like what we're trying to accomplish is to not trammel anything that's already happening there, making sure that those folks can keep doing what they're doing, but then also allow for these other types of uses, residential uses primarily, and of course, as you read it, you can see like, yes, we primarily would like to see some multi-units in there, but we do provide for people to build single-family units if it comes up, but you have to get a conditional use. So that's not a permitted use, but with a conditional use.
And that's existing language, that's not change.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
people did come forward with that question because of the way it read and seen with. But yeah, because there were already residences there anyway. So,
Right.
single family. All right, anyway.
So there is actually a lot of change, like a lot of little things that have been modified with this when you look at the setback schedule. And you know, some of it is literally just like retitling the sections, you know, B, C, D, E, F, that kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
there is a fair amount of language added to.
Like the new purpose statement, that's all new. Otherwise, it's basically a cutting and pasting of the multi-family residential rules that you recently adopted in the R1 zone and putting them into this zone as well.
So, there we have it.
I apologize, this is the one piece I didn't read real thoroughly. I must have gotten interrupted by something.
Imagine that.
Impossible. We can go, we can go through it to look at what has been added and have discussion on what has been added or changed. If you'd like, I don't know what's the most effective way to get to get through. It really is the main substance, like Mike was saying, the main substance is in the purpose statement. The discussion of expanding the uses for this zone so that it can be highly or more highly utilized, and also seek to address some of the city's strategic goals, such as housing and business development. So those are captured throughout the purpose statement, and then permitted uses, like what Mike was saying as well. All the things that that previously existed are still in there, and then the R1 expansions that we put in are cut and paste in there. Principal uses stays pretty much the same. Permitted uses changes a little bit based on what kind of development we're talking here with the back setbacks and lot area. The performance standards stay the same. Regulations on screening, I thought this was really interesting, but it makes sense. So screening from adjacent residential district and existing residential uses within the highway mixed-use district. So then, that means that you have to screen off your nasty businesses from residential uses.
And most of the screening language is existing in the ordinance.
Mhm.
It was one of the issues that the planning commission spent a lot of time talking about, because it was one of the issues that originally came up when Hamilton's wanted to rezone a piece of the property, is the idea of the interplay between commercial and residential inside the zone. When they started their study, you know, one of the first things they did was just an inventory of the zone and the uses that exist there, and found that really they're already completely mixed up right now.
Right.
And that the screening's not that been much of an issue. So this makes it clear we're talking about screening residential from commercial in the zone, but it doesn't change the processes we're asking people to use. And then at the end, the 50-foot setback between zones, that was kind of the kicker at that conversation, is being
Right.
removed.
Yep.
When they looked at examples from other cities about screening, they just didn't see anything that was remotely like what we had. Most cities, if they had any talk about screening between different zones, it was numbers that were akin to our existing side yard and front yard setbacks. So I think they gained a little bit of comfort that what we have is going to work fine.
Yeah.
So continuing through, G2 landscaping, no change from the existing. Lighting, again, no changing other than the name of what we're calling the zone. Storage displays, same thing, just a change in name. Requirement for vehicular and pedestrian circulation. So this one has that industrial or warehouse, buildings that's been tossed in there.
Yeah,
but
and that's just a clarification Jeff suggested to make it read better.
Yeah. So nothing too dramatic there. Driveways to or from public streets, there are certain restrictions on the widths that they can have, and and angles.
That's all existing, it's just
Yep.
in there because it's in the middle of a section where you gotta change before and after it.
Same thing with the next page. All that stuff is remaining the same. And then our setback schedule has changes, and it's largely,
Part of this is just an artifact of when we made the residential zoning changes, we created a new table that included all the residential zones in it, but it didn't get removed from the old table. And so this is just a
Okay.
recodification cleanup to take those columns out.
there we go. And that is the end of the ordinance as it's written. So, so there are definitely some meaningful changes in there. And any other discussion? Curious about discussion? Otherwise, you might ask for some other reaction. All right, does anybody feel strongly about ordinance number 2022-03? Not going to beat around.
Well,
the bush.
I love it. I
Okay.
think it's a
Great.
great ordinance. Fabulous.
He loves it, he wants one.
That's right.
So
But
is that,
I'll just wait. Just go ahead, Tracy. Just start.
Most of my initial thought has nothing to do with the changes.
Oh,
Right.
good.
It has more to do with what's existing.
Oh, no.
Whatever. There's kind
we're
of
going to put you on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
That's right. Let's just
You be
start there.
careful.
I mean,
like under B with permitted uses, like why are we in the details about laundry or dry cleaning, processing centers? I mean,
Because it's
You
happened
asked
in the past.
well, I mean, you could get a list however long.
Right.
I mean, it just seems odd to like somehow, can we notch it up a bit? It's whatever.
seen
It just depends on when it was written, Tracy.
Right.
The C1 zone that existed back in the day had 69 uses permitted, and now when we rewrote it, it has 5. So if we were going to go back and rewrite this, I think we would tighten it up quite a bit.
I would, yeah.
The last time we looked at it was when we were talking about lodging and making sure that we liked the way lodging was described in all of our zones, and it was clear where it was allowed and not allowed. And there was conversation about some of those weird details in there, and a reluctance to change any of them because there was some fear that there might be a taking of rights because of that. I mean,
right. I
I
remember that.
wasn't
Oh, yeah.
concerned,
Sure.
but
Like
it was
Right.
brought up.
It just
Yeah.
seemed like
I don't know. It feels
at
like
some point
it's-
maybe you could do some cleanup, just looking at what people in other cities
do some dry
have.
cleaning, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh!
Sorry.
Boy, you're on fire
With
tonight.
environmental friendly chemicals.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then landscaping, I'll bring that up, grass, not my favorite thing in the world. Maybe we could be more progressive about what we would allow somebody to do with their landscaping. And then, of course,
They don't have
lighting,
to
are
have
we,
grass. They can have lots of
well,
other things.
so I'm just,
It's
whatever.
out there.
I'm just gonna make sure we're here till 10, okay?
Thanks.
And then lighting, does that like get us into
At least you
all
said
our concern about night stuff, or are we still promoting like?
it. Dark sky
"Oh, I
stuff.
can see
I would
everything."
love to have language in there about dark sky stuff. That
That's
light
bigger than
speed, dark
this
sky.
ordinance, just in general.
Yeah, I think
Anyways.
that sometime in the near future, I would like to push like dark sky ordinance language for the entire city organization, not just per ordinance like this. So, but I think we can handle that in a different avenue
Yeah,
than
it
this.
wasn't
Yeah.
about
So-
this, but just, that's what caught my eye.
Yep, I get it.
Sounds like we got a lot of volunteers for the planning commission in the future. That's great news.
Yes, please. Come on down.
Didn't even think about that. Yeah, any other discussion, Craig? You got anything about this one?
Mhm.
No? See, I can tell he doesn't love it as much as Michael does, but.
That's right.
but-
I'm gonna take this
He's hard
one
to read
home.
sometimes.
All right, so this is
I
a
spent
reminder,
a lot
this is
of
first
time
reading.
with this one.
This is the first reading, so, ordinance 2022-03. Does anybody have strong feelings about that for a motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
We missed at least one reference to CI that we did not scratch out and replace with HMU. There
found
could be
that.
others, and we'll make
Oh.
sure that we catch those before.
Who didn't
The
do a
second-
search with the Word document?
That would be me, although I did, but it was much more complicated than that, but I didn't catch it. Chris did. He's our best proofreader. And
That's why we
then
pay him the big bucks.
there are
Big dollar.
There's a half dozen references to CI in the rest of the zoning code that we're gonna need to change. And I'll talk to Chris about the best way to write that into this ordinance without having to include all those sections if we can avoid it. But we just, that's the intent, is everywhere it says CI, we're gonna change it to this.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. First reading has been approved. All right, so we're going to get all the cleanups done on that one, and we will see that one at a future meeting as well. All right, so next thing on the agenda, North House proposal. So you all have received this handout from North House. Also, there's been considerable conversation throughout the community and throughout the community regarding concept from North House to seek to purchase the leased land that they currently occupy down near the harbor. So I'll start the conversation out right like this and say that I am a contractor with North House. I teach classes there, so therefore I am abstaining from the conversation and vote on this. So, so with that said, Craig, I should have warned you about this beforehand, but because you're the lieutenant mayor, you're running this show. So I am going to sit here and I am going to listen. And if anyone has questions about my perspective, don't ask because I don't want to share it. I'm not supposed to. So that's and we have representatives here from North House to answer questions if anyone has questions to ask. So I don't know who's going to be the talkers, but it's probably a good idea to come up.
Yeah.
And then I'm turning it over to Craig.
So start out with the, go ahead, Greg, and
Do you sit on your hands?
we'll listen to your proposal.
Do you want to consider over here?
Oh, yeah, you can sit in the gallery, my man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm going to stay here.
It's coming.
Pat's gonna cut your.
I'm going to draw my mic closer.
Good.
That guy.
All
It's a talker.
Just
Peer
you
pressure.
breathing
Great.
deeply into the microphone.
May we start?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Greg Wright. I'm with the executive director in North House, and I'm here with a group of folks who represent the school in different roles. And so why don't we quick introduce ourselves?
Mike Prom, past chair and committee chair for this endeavor.
Tina Hague-Raway, I'm the vice president of the board.
Tom Morse, Development Director for North House.
Carol Winter, I'm the current president of the board.
So I want to first thank the council for letting us be here. You've seen a lot of us. Appreciate the time and energy you've invested in this conversation and the work that's led us to this place. I also want to thank community members who've been part of this conversation during the past several months. A lot of energy, a lot of risk-taking, people stepping up to share their views, and but we've worked hard together. And North House, on our part, has tried to listen, tried to learn, tried to be open to understanding what do we got right, what do we got wrong. And I feel great about the progress we've made. And what I believe the community asked us to do when they said no to our first proposal was go back and try to figure out if there's another way. And what do I mean by that? I mean, people said, we care about access to this harbor. We're concerned. We're not sure your first proposal does that. Can you figure out a way to make that possible? People said, we care about the history and the legacy of fishing and our connection to this big lake. Can this historic fish house stay here? We love having a fishery, an active fishery in our community. Can they have a home here too? And the character of the harbor matters. I love to sit on the back dock of the Fisherman's Daughter and look out and see the lighthouse. But people have also said other things to us very directly. I don't understand your current lease. Why do you pay so little money? And hold on, where do the students park? I mean, people have, and so we've looked for a way forward that tries to check all these boxes. Is that possible? And we think there is a way forward that can accomplish all these things. And this is why, we've come to the city with what I would call a pretty bold ask to say, here's an idea. Couldn't we go forward together this way? I want to highlight, for the community, folks who are listening, what exactly is this piece of property we're talking about? Because not everybody thinks about this every day like some of us do. It's the piece of property that the red building, the blue building, and the blacksmith shop sit on. It's in the council packet. It stretches from the highway down to the beach, but does not include the shoreline. That's managed by the rec park. And it goes basically from the back of the blue building on the west side to the very back of the red building on the east side. So it's a very defined block. It's a piece of property that we were lucky enough to get to rent for 6 months in 1997 after the founders published the first 23 classes in a first catalog. And for 4.5 years, we lived 6 months at a time. Then we signed a 5-year lease. And then in 2008, we signed this new lease, right?
2004.
2004, thank you, in 2004. And we were asked to do 3 things. 1, pay a little bit of money that would be roughly equal to the property tax this piece of property would have generated if it wasn't improved. 2, improve the property. This is property the city owns. Part of your rent payment is this little bit of cash, but your other big piece is improve this piece of property. Everything you build here will be owned by the city of Grand Marais, but you get to use it. And the third thing we're asked to do was thrive. So, as Tina highlighted, that piece of property since 1997 has grown from $138,000 in value to $1.2 million. I'd say we checked that box. I think we made all our payments on time. Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So far, so good. And as we've talked, the school's thriving. But we've lost 2 classrooms. And now we need to find a way forward towards those. And that's really what this conversation is about. Where is the site of that classroom? So this conversation is certainly about that. We do have, though, a number of community conversations scheduled. We'll make sure folks knows what those dates. We want the community to understand what's going on. And but obviously that's just part of that journey. But tonight here we are to talk to you. And so we're looking forward to answering questions, engaging in conversation, talking about the proposal. Our hope is that this council might consider during this meeting our invitation and suggestion to move forward quickly with an appraisal. North House obviously would cover the cost of that. The city clearly would select the appraiser of choice. And 2, as quickly as possible to find a timeline for moving forward towards this. So, thank you very much for having us here tonight.
Thank you. I guess I don't know if I'm here tonight ready to vote on any.
Well, I don't think we're voting on anything.
No, I mean, the discussion is, this is a proposal by the North House, and I think we can certainly discuss it tonight if some of you want to discuss where this is, how this sits with you, or if you have any comments to make to the board that's currently here, the people. I've gotten phone calls from people, I've been bumped into on the street from people, and we've gotten feedback. We've had emails sent to all of us, and some of us independently to each of us. And I don't know, we're not reading them tonight. Maybe we probably should. I'm not. We decided not to do that moving forward today, but I think that all should be considered in our discussion of this.
Yep.
I don't know if any of you have anything to add to this. I have a copy of the contract. I've read it quite a few times. I may agree and not agree to everything in this. I may want legal clarification on some of the stuff that's in here, for myself anyway. That's
Well, I think the idea of engaging in the conversation more makes sense. And I think certainly, a purchase to me doesn't seem like a crazy idea. And certainly if they're going to put the bill for the appraisal, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't go ahead with that. In terms of a speedy timeline, I don't know, I would have to defer to Mike to see what does it look like on our side, for administratively to even begin the process on our side. Other than that, I'd say we move forward. That'd just be my thoughts. Grace?
This isn't a light ask by any stretch of the imagination, and it is irreversible. And I get money, and I can do math too, and there's more here than just the money involved in whatever we move forward with. And this community is bigger than North House, and what puts this community together is all of what's around here. But the one unifying thing that joins all of us, and why you are here tonight with North House, is that harbor and the lake. And there isn't anyone who visits here, lives here, no matter where they are in this county, who doesn't care about this. And there isn't any other business or organization that doesn't benefit. And there isn't anybody who walks by or drives by and their head doesn't go that direction. And I watched over the years, for many years, every time someone has an ask about this harbor, we look at it in a really compartmentalized way. And we just look at that business and what they want to do. And then we go over here, and then over time, people forget how many times we've given away our view, we've given away a sense of open space, and yet none of us are going to make it unless we're all here for this. And I don't have to say that, you know that. And we all realize that a lot of North House's success is based on the fact that you are on the lake and in this harbor. And we can see that in contrast to other folks' schools and how they're going and struggling, and it's not as big a build or as fast. And there could be other reasons involved in that, but that's just like a high-level contrast, right? And we've had this conversation so many times, Greg, you already know. I mean, I don't want to repeat myself 50 million times. But the first time I did this, and someday maybe I'll bring it in here, was when I was about 22. I didn't live here. And there was some other little economic development, and I wrote my letter about how I felt important this harbor and this lake was to everyone. And everyone should have access to it. And I don't feel any different. So I don't think any one of us are necessarily on a different page or a different objective about what we ultimately want and what will ensure your success in North House. But how we get there, I think we need to be maybe more creative about it. And I think all of us think that the Scott Fish House is super important and the heritage. I don't think you're doing an either or on that with this proposal, that if we don't go with it, that somehow the city's not acknowledging or saying it isn't important. I don't think it's that kind of a piece to it at all. But I think to say we can, I get the fact you guys want to do planning, but so does the city after this. And we have to think about it, so we'll have to do some planning. And you guys have done a great job of getting people's opinions and thoughts, and it was obviously pretty effective, right? I mean, you were able to plan and regroup around all of that, but I think the city needs to do the same thing. And we really need to hear from people as well. And we've also talked about other initiatives. It's not the first time the property down in that way has been put up and offered out potentially for private development. And we heard pretty loud and clear from our community that that was not what they wanted. And I'm not going to venture that it's changed much since then. And your proposal even a year ago was way different than it was now. And it was basically to build up every square inch of that piece of land. And all of a sudden you pivoted, great. But I don't know where that lands us in the long run as to what would happen should you have all of that land. So my thought is, yeah, we need to move this forward and talk about it and discuss, but the city has a great responsibility to get feedback and think through for as well. So there's a lot more than just getting an appraisal.
Can I make a couple just legal points for council? So in considering an offer for the purchase or sale of property, the city does have the legal authority and the right to close a council meeting to be able to discuss among council and staff and legal counsel candidly the offer, the price, what are the parameters for negotiation, do you want to proceed or not proceed? So that can take place at a closed meeting if that's something that the council wants to do. On the appraisal issue, there is no legal requirement for the city to get an appraisal if the city doesn't want to get an appraisal. That is up to you. Certainly that may inform what that price might be or what that price would be in terms of what that negotiation would be or what your parameters would be to negotiate the price. But you're not required to do an appraisal, but it might assist the city in determining what is a legitimate sale price for this piece of property. So that's something to also consider at some point when you decide to move forward with something like this. Typically, if there's an offer by a party to purchase a piece of city-owned property, typically cities do close a meeting. And again, it's for the purpose of establishing parameters for negotiations and trying to set the price, or to consider an offer that has been made for a particular price to determine whether or not you want to proceed. And then usually then what comes out of the closed meeting oftentimes is a motion to direct staff and legal counsel to then negotiate a purchase agreement with the buyer. So again, that's typical process. Those are, I think, just some legal parameters that you should think about as you proceed.
Thanks. Okay, thank you, Chris. Well, I don't think tonight we're needing to close the meeting. I don't think we're talking about offers of money or anything or those types of things, but I do understand maybe in the future that's something that we will probably have to do if this is the avenue we go down. I think tonight more or less it's more of listening to their presentation, and now we have something to think about and something to, obviously answer their request. Anybody else have anything to add? I do have something, though. I want to question Greg, sorry. You said you lost a classroom. What did you mean by that?
So North House has historically worked with, or in a recent history has worked with 8 classrooms as kind of our core of operations. 2 of those 8 classrooms has served us pretty well for the first 20 years of the school, but they're small, they're inaccessible, difficult to ventilate, and so the hard to offer high quality programming. And so, for instance, one is upstairs in the fish house that we rebuilt after Tommy Eccles' fish house got knocked down. Not accessible, not an okay place to do public programming. We're probably not going to put in an elevator into that small building, right? So that one's all, so we're now at 6 classrooms. So we're trying to run an effective and financially successful organization without 25% of our teaching space available to us. So that's, we've lost 2 small, and we want to replace them with higher quality classrooms that can power the mission and power the different courses and instructors that are part of the school. So does that serve as an okay answer, Craig?
Yeah. Well, no. Well, yeah. Because I talked to you earlier, and thank you for that conversation. I know you had talked about having 8 classrooms, but tonight when you said you lost a classroom, I'm trying to think, what did you lose? I wasn't sure how you lost. If something happened down there where you revamped a building or something to change the dynamics of the classrooms. But I do understand that you were looking for getting to the number 8.
Sure.
Yeah, for your needs.
And can I say a couple other things?
Yeah,
and I don't
sure.
know if anybody else on the group wants to say. I want to be, very clear. we're not here because we're trying to ask for you to sell us the property tomorrow. You know, we understand this is a negotiation and there's conversation that needs to happen, you know? And a great example is to acknowledge what Steph said, you know? Does this purchase need to be irrevocable? I assume there's a lot of legal ways that we could dance around so that we have a relationship that would define what happens if North House would ever vacate the property, right? So there is ways to build our future together that aren't just about how much cash is getting handed off here. That is not why we brought up the money. But it's helpful to know about the math, I think, is the point. And I hope people understand this isn't just about the math of how many classes the school can teach. You know, the school, I was the first person hired and paid to work full-time for the school when I was hired in 2001. We have 14 full-time people now, year-round, 5 year-round part-time people. 25% of our teaching faculty live in this county. More than a third of the courses we teach are taught by them. This isn't something that is part of a hobby of theirs. This is how they make their living. So this conversation isn't just about the fabric of our educational mission. It's about the vitality of our community. And I don't mean just the North House community. I mean the Cook County community, the Grand Marais community. The 2 classrooms we lost, they're gone. We don't have them now. When we came to the Planning and Zoning Commission, we were planning on breaking ground this fall. We can be patient. I also want to acknowledge we have a need, because we've hired staff. We've structured our program around the idea of we need to get back to capacity because our students want us, our instructors are hungry to teach. This is part of how we touch the world, but also how we're part of the economy of Cook County. And we want to do well because we think when we do well, our neighbors do well. So our hope is to enter conversation, begin negotiations, and our belief is the single biggest piece of information, though it may not be legally required, an appraisal would be a great thing to get because it's an incredible tool for us to understand what is this piece of property worth. And only one tool, but so that's why, again, we put that specifically in the request in our proposal for right now. Anything that you guys would add?
Just equally, process and timeline is important, right? I mean, to know if this is going to take 7 years or 7 months, we're our hands are tied a little bit, as you said, and so that seems reasonable to try to figure out that path.
No, I think everyone knows this takes, if you get a pad, it takes a while. It's like you can do whatever you need to do just like that.
No, yep.
Yeah. So my question, just to ask you, because we had a discussion, but just to ask you, by purchasing this land, then you would move ahead with a building, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That would be located on the north side of that land. How much have you done measuring there? I mean, will that building actually, with the state setbacks from the state right-of-ways, and is there space for that? I mean, that's my question, because I'm looking, I know that there's some state right-of-way that you have to deal with up there, and proximity with the other building that's there, and you're removing a parking lot. Is that, I guess what I'm getting at is buying this land gonna solve your problems with what you need currently? Or, 5 years from now, you're gonna need 3 more classrooms? I kind of had this discussion with you because my whole thing is you want to keep growing, but eventually you're going to run out of land. And then you've got to start looking for other ideas. And it might be on the other side of the street. It might be on another lot somewhere within our city that's not on the harbor, that's not on the lake. Is that something the North House projects out? Or do you feel you want to keep everything close to the lake, that's why you're successful? Is there a point where you've grown to where you're comfortable and growing anymore is something you really don't need to do, but if you want to do, you know you're going to have to expand and go somewhere else because there won't be any land left to build on? I mean, you're almost reaching that point right now, seriously, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's what people are concerned about that talk to me anyway, about what's the North House doing? Where can they build? Do they have space for that?
Right.
I'm getting these questions, so I'm
Sure,
that's
so
why
let
I'm
me
asking.
answer a couple questions there. That's great. So, first, North House's aspiration on the harbor is to have 8 classrooms and to be an incredible school that teaches traditional craft and gathers and builds community. You know, in a sense, I mean, this is the simplest version. When the school is so big that we can't have everybody come over to hold a wood-fired pizza potluck for students, we've gotten too big. We think 8 classrooms, about 8 classrooms, is the right idea. And so we're not trying to add 12 classrooms. We're not going to build a 4-story building. We think this is the magic number for North House. Might someday there be other things we want to do that take place elsewhere in Cook County? Maybe. I'll have to confess, I haven't tried to look. You know, we got enough to do in the next 10 years. So, you know, when you do master planning, or when we did master planning, we didn't draw a square and say, let's build a building down here. We started by asking a question, where are all the places where square classrooms could fit? And how could they work? And indeed, 10 years, 15 years ago when we did Raise the Roof, we also studied the spot where the upper parking lot is. And we know, could you put the same building there? No. Could you put a building there that would be really meaningful to the work of the school? Yes. Have we started to design that building? No. I mean, we don't own that property. So, but do we know it could work? We do. Do we believe there's another site for moving and expanding actually parking? We do believe that. So we see this path not just as a clever idea, but we've done a fair amount of research around how it would work and why it fits into this plan of a cohesed, compact school that works well. You know, that obviously is the kind of quality institution we want to be. So did I get to everything? Anything you'd add?
No, I guess I would just encourage on the parking issue, go park a truck in that parking lot. It's a fairly narrow parking lot and very difficult for students to enter and exit from. And I think the concept of adding parking on the north side of 61 could provide much better public parking. North House classes typically end at 5 p.m. We don't typically run classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We run some, but we don't usually run at full capacity. We're much fuller Thursday through Sunday. People park in our parking lot every day after 5 to use Fisherman's Daughter and Angry Trout and make use of other businesses in the community. I'm sure if it ran all the way from 5th to 6th, as is something we've discussed, Birch Terrace would benefit from that additional parking as well. You know, from the first proposal we shared 2.5 months ago with planning and zoning, the idea was how do we make the neighborhood work better for everybody? I think it was Mike Roth that said that's not something the North House Board needs to take into consideration. And it's something that the city appreciated North House had done. That continues to be the way we're trying to operate. We're trying to find a plan that continues to make it easy for Angry Trout and Fisherman's Daughter and North Superior Fishery to operate on a piece of property that North House owns. We're trying to find a way to keep the fishing heritage there. We're trying to find solutions that work for the whole community. When it comes to the lease issue, my feeling, and I don't know if I speak for all of North House on this, is that that's not North House's problem. Having a low lease payment is a challenge for the city, much more than it is for North House. For us, that's a tremendous benefit. But if it's a benefit we can give up in order to keep the neighborhood working well, creating additional year-round jobs at Fisherman's Daughter and Angry Trout, that's something we want to do because that's good for everybody. And it goes way past what the investment would be for North House and the property.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from the council have any more things they'd like to add or discuss? regarding this request, or proposal to the city, I guess.
Yeah. I guess, and as far as the proposal goes, I mean, I guess I would like to see how we would, start taking steps to get the appraisal going. I don't think that that would be a bad thing to know and to have as an element of our further discussions. So I think that that's a piece that we should see about getting going.
Well, I think this request for proposal to the city obviously started a conversation in my mind, and in my mind, what's going through me right now is, like Tracy said, this isn't going to be something that's, we need to be careful on how we proceed. For me, I think that's a very valuable piece of land to the city, and selling it needs to be a pretty heavy discussion on behalf of the city of how that goes.
Yep.
I don't know if I want to make a request to start a proposal right now tonight, other than having a discussion about weighing their proposal with whether we even want to sell it or not. I mean, because we have that decision to make. So, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if Tracy, that answers anything you're thinking about, or.
We have to, just like North House did a great job of getting input, you really did, from people, and I mean, you asked, and hopefully you heard from people enough. We need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And we need to, I think all of us think a bit out of the box. And we said this before, it was a sign of relief when you were able to purchase the property you did purchase, with the thought in mind that we could keep an open harbor, that we could have open space, that we could have, that it wouldn't just be all developed and built up on. And of course, the plan that you explained to me last summer was completely build up, take down, use up all the space. And now you've got a different proposal in mind, that's great, but somewhere the thing that I really want to see happen is to stay with our longer range plan of making sure that harbor is accessible to everybody. So in a lot of ways, I think what everyone wants is kind of the same, but I'm just not sure how we get there. And you're right, there's a lot of ways you can put together a sale, but we still can't necessarily go back on it. So however we structure, we really do have to think really hard about it. It's not going to change. And over time, it's great to say that, oh yeah, we could get it back, but then we wouldn't blame you guys for saying, well, we put all this investment in a piece of property and we hate to just walk it go away. I mean, over time when you do something, you can start here, but then eventually it ends up over here. And so you would acknowledge, just like right now, you did do a lot of great improvements to the leased property, and I wouldn't want to just ignore that, right, in whatever decision we made. I think that would be disrespectful to just tell you guys that, oh, that's, well, goodbye, you can't, you have to walk away with what you had. And I think that's where a lot of conversations would end up in the future if we're not really careful about the decision we make now. It's easy to say at the time that selling this property is just what it is, but as it evolves and then sometime it gets looked at again, people will go, oh, it's not that simple. I didn't say that very well, I know. But there's just a lot more thought that needs to go into it. Appraisal is just one aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, as part of that effort, and I understand it's you listening and us listening are different things, we're going to be doing a series of listening sessions in the next 5 days. I want to underscore. Certainly, I'd invite all of you as council members to come down and tour the site again, thinking in new ways about what the space and how the space could work. Similarly, I'd invite community members to come down because nothing better than knowing you're having an understanding of the idea and your thoughts about it before you talk to the city council to share your thoughts. I mean, this is key. So we have those scheduled. They're in the city packet. They're in the press release we sent out. They're on WTIP. They're on boreal.org. I'd really encourage people to come and be part of that. And this is not to come down only if you think this is the best proposal ever. Although you're welcome to come down if you feel that way. But it's certainly important to hear also from people who have concerns and questions. And that is how we did it the first time around, and that is absolutely the way we want to do this second time around also.
Yeah.
Our goal is to keep, in a friendly way, advancing the idea that we have a need to try to have this conversation sometime or begin this conversation sometime relatively soon. I'm not trying to make light of the importance of the of the topic for the city, but I am trying to underscore our need as an institution to find a way forward. So thanks very much for having us here tonight. Appreciate it. And again, I want to just thank the community for all the time and energy that's been invested. It's really appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, brings us to,
Council and staff reports. Well, you're the first one on the list, so.
oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, okay, there we go.
Let's see, we did have a park board meeting. Where are my notes? Right here. Let's see, we had a let's see, park board. Let's talk about the golf report. Golf report. I think business is up about 10% over average. We're getting more Canadian play. It's a little different than last year. I think it seems like it's a little slower up there, but on average we are doing better. So, I mean, last year was kind of a different type of setting where things are just going crazy. Yeah, but anyway, we are showing some positive play, so that's kind of nice to hear. We did order 3 new golf carts for up there, but I think we're looking at like an August delivery now. They seem to be getting problems getting them delivered or getting them built or whatever. There's a delay on that. But we're focusing on fall business now. We're going to do some advertising on that, and I think that will hopefully we have a good fall and we get the carts put in play. That should be nice for the golf course. Let's see, what else did we talk about? I think year-to-date revenues at the park, June, were trending almost exactly even with last year, up a little bit. And going forward into July through September, I think our bookings look pretty solid. So I think we're going to have a pretty positive summer. It was a little different last summer due to the fact that we were closed May, and what was that summer before?
That was
That's 2 summers.
That was the summer before.
Yeah, last summer
All
was
this stuff
I
just
keep
keeps
thinking about
together.
COVID. Oh, COVID was kind of weird because we were closed in May, but we made up all that ground.
Right, for real.
And then next summer was just crazy.
Well, and that,
This summer's a little different. We are getting cancellations, but when people see a cancellation happen on the computer, it's getting filled. So we're filling off the highway. We're filling with new bookings that are.
considering that last spring was so nice, and
Yeah.
this spring was so cold,
Yeah.
it's kind of surprising to hear that they're on the same.
Right, and also we're
tack.
competing, well, last year too, but the year that things were so slow and then it went gangbusters was because a lot of our parks weren't open yet.
Right.
And, those sites are open now, so it's kind of like more of a normal,
Filtered out, yeah.
normal summer other than, the price of gas and that kind of thing, but. Let's see, other than that, I think, construction work, I guess, to bring you up to date on that, we did have a walkthrough. I wasn't part of that, but I did do a walkthrough after anyway, so I did walk down to the new, boat launch, and they got the concrete poured out into the water, that's done. And now they're starting to push some class 5 around, getting ready for the parking lot. And, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but it might be a good possibility that they get that area done a little sooner than what was projected, rather than the end of, we're talking fall. It's hard to say. There's a timeline, but they do have another project to start, and they might want to get started on that, so it's hard to say. But
There was a time when they thought they might be done about now.
Yeah, but, they got the concrete poured, and the ramp is there, and they're getting the little water runoff areas put together on the lower side of the parking lot. Yeah, so I mean, that looks pretty much on I don't know about budget, but it's on time frame. It's on a time frame. Anyway, so I guess that's about all I have. I don't have anything else for the. Oh, we did have a discussion though, and I don't know if I should bring that up now or not. But about cutting
We're
grass.
not at 10 yet. so-
About cutting grass.
Yeah, bring it up.
Grass cutting.
Grass
All right. So I mean, I don't know between the city and the rec park, do we have a clarification of who, or business owners, or I guess what came up was the highway corridor, now that we have the bike path going through town, who are we expecting to cut grass on that?
Yeah, and the park board talked about that, right?
Yeah, we did, but we didn't really.
I understood that you decided that we weren't going to be taking that on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But I have seen it cut once this summer by somebody, from the, I don't know if it's the city or the park. Somebody cut
Yeah,
the
we
grass.
did run through it one time early in the year. And
Okay, all right.
That.
So we're gonna take care of, what I'm thinking is, we're gonna ask business owners, I mean, if they want a nice yard in front of their place, that's their responsibility to do
So
that.
just kind of like a resident.
But like down by this side of the Angry Trout, along the viewing area where the harbor is and the new rope that we put up, there is some median and grass in there. I'm assuming the city's taking care of that
Yeah, and rather than.
for the city.
We really need a map to have this conversation.
Huh?
And so we need a map.
Yeah,
right?
okay. Well,
So
true.
that it's really clear, this is what we intend to mow, this is not.
Okay.
The guideline is, our city code is clear, mowing boulevards is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Okay.
Now, the city can do more than that if you decide you want to, but that's the baseline. And so I've asked Dave to just develop a map that
Okay.
shows, here are the areas that are ours that we will mow.
Yep.
Just to start that
Then
conversation.
I think we need to.
So we'll share that with you when that's ready to go.
All right.
And then if you want to talk more about it, we can, otherwise that's,
No, I just want to convey that information to owners of property so that they know, what's expected. That they're not going to expect us to do it. I mean, seriously, we don't have a lot of time for doing that right now, so I mean, just so, I think that's a discussion we had. I mean, that's about all I have about it. All right.
Oh, cool. Great segue for me. Because item 1 on my laundry list, whose responsibility is it, or what do we option for any of the plantings that may have not succeeded, and survived is probably the better word. Like some of those trees looked a little sick, like maybe they aren't making it.
I'd say dead is not an overstatement for some of them.
So
I think
what's-
some of that, wasn't there a walkthrough have they done that, or?
I've been talking to Ed about this.
Okay.
We've been asking him all kinds of questions about landscaping, mostly issues, because the rest of the project, I think, is pretty settled and done, but the landscaping is something that, there's a 2-year
What's 2
warranty
years?
period.
I thought it was just one.
And
That's great. Take
which makes this conversation even more difficult, right? Because rather than just take it over right now and make sure everything is good, we have to continue to work through MnDOT, and they have to continue to work through their contractor to sort some of these things out. So I've asked Ed to please send us up someone from MnDOT as an inspector that we can walk through with and show them, here's all the things that have been pointed out to us or we've noticed in terms of landscaping deficiencies.
Okay.
So we don't have that scheduled yet, but that's the intention.
Okay, but it is being addressed.
We're giving it a shot. I wouldn't say it's being addressed yet. It's kind of,
Right.
we're
not
trying
solved,
real
We've
hard.
taken our step, I guess.
Right, yeah. I didn't mean like it's solved, but some tension's being made. Right. Not only did I get an email on this, but my own nose detected it multiple times, more than once, when I looked at Pete and said, I think you need to get that garbage out. But it turned out it was our lovely water treatment plant wafting up to my house. And then multiple times when I've gone for a walk. And then I thought, glad I'm not eating at Sisters tonight. And then, lucky us, I heard from them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not hot, and it's busy, but it's not that busy. I assume we have some bigger issues about our water treatment plant. Not that I expect a full answer right now, but.
No, I don't think you're going to get anything without having Tom here. So if you want to talk about that, let's invite Tom to the next meeting.
Well, we had that discussion last summer,
I mean, this is not new.
Didn't we?
We've had this
Right.
conversation.
was it at a city council, or was,
regular
it was either
basis.
PUC or city
He
council?
came
we
to
had?
the city council.
Yeah,
He discussed it with the city council.
it's the high microbe product that gets dumped into our system this time of year.
Well, let's not make assumptions.
Sure.
Let's give him a chance to
Okay,
explain.
I'll let him talk.
Yeah.
Great.
Sounds good to me.
And this was a wintertime issue, but I believe it's now a summertime issue, which came in the same email, and I agree. And maybe you guys have talked about it, I don't know. But all the repair vehicles that sit out with Auto and Tire Lodge,
That's
Yeah, I got that.
I got that.
yeah, I think we all
What's
got
our,
that,
I-
but
the-
what is the deal?
What's the
with-
ordinance
I didn't- I
situation?
should
on
Is that a
that?
state?
Do we have any ordinance on that?
Yeah.
I don't believe it's illegal for them to park there.
Well,
As long as they're
I get
licensed,
that.
Like, I didn't
Yeah.
think they were.
Well, that might be a conversation with the state if we need, I,
The state doesn't care what we set in terms of parking rules. That's something
Within
they
the
defer
city
to
limits?
communities for.
okay.
So it's not a state-controlled issue?
No,
We have,
you have the ability to set the rules.
thank you, because
Okay.
between last winter, looking at those cars that couldn't have been moved after a while if they needed
Because
to
you
be.
were like
They're snowed
anchored
in.
yeah.
It was another issue of an abnormal winter, but still, and now to see them like that, we need something to address that, because
Well-
that's not what we have parking for.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have a conversation with the owner, and then, based on that, you've got the ability to set, you can make 2-hour parking there if you want, and then it's, not gonna work for him, so.
Well, yeah, I don't want to just do whatever. I think we need to help devise a plan. It's a business operational deal, like don't let a car come till you're about ready to work on it. I don't know, whatever. Well, let's work it out, because we all know what you can do with a 2-hour parking thing. You can just start moving your vehicles around and not back to the same spot again.
Yeah, he doesn't want
That's
to
why
do
they rubber
that.
tires.
Take the one from the front, goes
Not
to the
that
back.
They want to do that with their day, but you know what I mean. I think we need to like personalize this a little bit about it. Okay,
Yeah.
cha-ching. Mike and I
Yeah.
were both at the meeting last night for the 5th Avenue up the Gunflint Trail to the Hospital Street. Just trying to give everybody
Mhm.
where we're at, because, and I wasn't I wasn't around when the earlier planning went through. And one of the things I mentioned, and I realize this is a county project, right? Primarily, but obviously it affects our residents and people all along there. And if not in place, I just would suggest we make sure that it is a really good communication plan going forward for everyone. There were some of those people there, not everybody. I'm assuming people who live off those streets and utilize it would be interested to know what the plans are. Not just the bigger plan, but as the plan is worked through next summer, when the actual work is done. And then we're gonna have a little mini period again of truck traffic. And that was difficult for people last year as well. And then Kim came from the hospital and was concerned about the ambulance and things of that nature, which made me a little bit nervous, because I thought she should be way more into this project and know more about it. I was surprised by her questions. I would have assumed she'd be more in the know, and that made me wonder, how much are we communicating with the key players? But I don't know, I wasn't part of it.
Right, remember who we is.
Yeah.
We,
So anyways, I don't mean this in the sense of, you gotta do this. I mean, I would like a conversation with the city and the county to figure out how this, and the project people to figure out how we can certainly be more proactive about this. Because we all know people don't pay attention until they can't get in their driveway.
I do believe that the city is going to have significant or considerable input into the Fifth Avenue project. I also think that the city's part of that project is our utilities.
Oh, yeah,
So-
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's-
thank you.
That's one of the, that's like really the thing that we're thinking about. And the repaving and the recreating and all the stuff that happens with that, that's county project that we're participating in. So, I mean, in my brain, that's how our relationship to the project works. Not to say that if we have good ideas, we shouldn't throw them out there. And also
It's not a
that-
design issue at this point, and what you're talking about is, do people know what's going on? And how do we ensure that people get good information about what's going on?
Right.
And when different sections of that road, when you will be the most impacted and in what ways. But that does bring another good point, because they did talk about all the different things that people could benefit during this time. Like, do you need your driveway repaved? Is this the time to think about your own water line issues and things of that nature? And I think there we could definitely, as city, be a little bit more proactive and get this news out to people and help them plan. It's something I don't think we did maybe particularly well with the Highway 61. I think we could really do that this time.
I
So
think they
add
overpromised a
that.
little bit on that conversation too.
Well-
Because on the Highway 61, for sure, the contractor said no to multiple people when they asked for those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then we need to get that clarified,
Yeah,
and that
I
backs us up
agree.
to one more piece about that. But anyways, just awareness, and let's make sure we as a group, get together and, how do you how does the city, I shouldn't say you, sorry, Mike. How does the city participate in all these meetings right now?
I'm not sure about all the meetings. There's an occasional group meeting where their engineers and LHB are talking about project, just kind of a progress meeting, and we're invited to that, and sometimes we're able to attend and monitor what's going on. The LHB, who's their design engineer, is also ours, and is working on the utilities piece of it right now, but that's behind, we're behind where they're at in terms of schedule, so I'm trying to push LHB to catch us up so that we can start talking to folks about the utilities side of it and what to expect.
So maybe we need to make sure someone's at those other meetings, not the ones you're talking about.
Well, they're not, I mean, we're not like it's not a room, it's just a online 3 or 4 people. So there's really not a lot of meetings going on in terms of creating the design. The design's mostly there.
I don't mean the design, I mean just all, as it progresses, if things change, just being aware of where things are at about it, because it is our residents affected by this. It may be a county road, and it may be their project, but obviously it's right in the middle of our city.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd be happy to come say more to us about what the communication plan is going to look like, and we'd be happy to participate with them if they need our help.
Or just know, like, if they get behind or they make a change, or just where they're at with everything, it'd be nice to.
Yeah, the
so
county
they
has-
participate in lots of other things.
They've got a lot of resources when it comes to this, and I know it's their priority too to be communicating with the public, so I'm sure they'll be responsive.
Okay, checking another item. Oh, how did we come out on that hydrant at the top of the hill? Do we have
We dug
anything
it
yet
up.
to
It's
report?
fixed, it wasn't the problem. There wasn't a
Okay.
leak on it.
Okay.
So they dug it down to it and found an old drain tile about halfway down that was coming from the northwest that was where the water on the surface was coming
Oh,
from.
that was, okay.
There wasn't a leak in our system.
That's one up by Aspen Inn.
That's the one by Benny's Collision. The
Just
current hole
west.
Oh, the
by
current
Aspen
hole.
Inn,
Yes.
that's a different story, much more complicated dig because of all the things that are in that
Lots of
place.
stuff in that hole, I looked into it.
And they're not fixed yet, so.
Okay.
Still
But that
a-
hydrant one then, done.
Well, I mean, we shared with the neighbors what we found and showed it to them and talked about it and said, we've done what we can.
Yeah, the
So-
hydrant isn't leaking.
Hydrant's not leaking, water main's not leaking.
Okay.
There you go.
Several months back, sorry, I don't remember when, I mentioned, I thought it was important to get emergency contacts for all of our utility customers, cell phones, emails, just how can we reach you in the event of it. Have we had any opportunity to work on that or get that moved forward?
We do have quite a few contact informations from folks. We don't have everybody's. I don't expect we ever will.
I think we should. I don't think there's any utility customer we shouldn't be able to contact, because if there is, a water issue and
Oh, I see what you're saying. So like to send out like hey, you're on the PUC, here's an alert to kind of text thing or
Could
call
be that,
thing.
or it could be we've discovered, which happened to my neighbor a few years ago. You guys noticed the water thing. It was like chinging, and of course they're not here.
Yeah.
And their whole basement was filling up with water. That's what I mean by emergencies. And there could be other kinds related to that. Maybe there's something about a power line, or a tree thing, or just something. We should be able to get a hold of people. We have a lot of people who aren't here most of the time. And of course now you can't just open up a phone book and call somebody. You pretty much have to have a cell phone or an email to readily be able to get to people. I mean, even if you live here, you can't open a phone book and look up my phone number.
That information is part of our application process.
For new
So as applications come in, we do put that information in the computer. So we do have that for many people, but not everybody.
Yeah. Because I mean, at some point too, there are those automated services. It's not something I'm suggesting we have, but like Excel Energy constantly pings you. The power's out now, and this is when we expect it back on, or this is, it's going to be late. It's all automated, but I mean, at some point we may be able to offer some services like that. But it just makes common sense to me, because we can't contact people like we could.
With the automatic reading, electric remote reading meters, does that is there a way to do hey, this person's using a ton of set an alert level on it that if somebody's using more than a certain amount of water, then they can send an alert, and then Alyssa will be like, yo, what's up? How are you using so much water? That kind of a thing?
That's the idea. We don't have automatic water read on very many houses yet.
Oh, that's right. We have electric read. Duh.
Again, it's the golf cart issue, right?
Yep. Yes.
This is a little bit longer term supply chain problem, but we used to do this where just be the monthly read, and we'd be able to and still do contact folks to talk about abnormal readings. But yes, we will have the ability to do that with water meters as well. Right now with the electric meters, what we have the ability to do is go back and look at the usage. And so somebody has an issue with their number, and we can look and see which were the days that it was spiking and what was the time of day it was spiking, so that to help them kind of understand what was going on with their own usage. And that's a fairly common conversation with people that might have an issue.
Well, that would be good for planning, or just finding out how can I reduce my energy consumption or whatever. But I'm talking about more like emergency. What part of it, the immediacy of it. Okay. Ching ching. Did I bring this up last time? I maybe forgot.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, yeah. I want to go home. I've had enough. The sign at Java Moose, the city sign at Java Moose. I've been asked, could we get that? Did you ever notice it?
Get it repainted?
Yeah, freshened up.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then where's our Jacques? Jacques is not there.
Nope, he's not there.
Don't miss him, but whatever.
What?
Isn't he getting rebuilt?
I thought he was getting refinished, but
Refinished?
I never heard what happened to him. Did he get
He's on vacation.
Yeah.
He's on the Superior National Hiking Trail somewhere.
Yeah. You'll have to go find him.
The other question though, the dirt road, is that Fourth?
Fourth Avenue
Does they get
West.
some sodium chloride put on?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a request we have to make of the county, right?
Okay.
The sodium chloride on Fourth Avenue.
We did that
West.
last year.
No, the county's going to say no.
They
How
did
we
it
get it done
though.
last year?
We did it.
We did it, the
We did
city?
it. We have it?
Or they did it when they were, yes, we can, but this is an annual maintenance process that we do on gravel roads.
Right.
It's not a cure of the condition of there will be dust where there are gravel roads.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about here is an expectation that's not realistic, that there's going to be never any dust on that road. Until it's paved, there will be dust. If you want to pave it, we'll pave it. Typically, we would assess those costs when we make that type of improvement from one level of service to another, but up to you all.
I think it would be reasonable to start putting an expected application of sodium chloride on that road post spring melt, when it starts getting dry and dusty. I think that one application for the year would not be unrealistic, just to keep it down and damp it down. That road does get a ton of traffic, and I totally understand, having grown up on a gravel road, that having people go by and those plumes of dust that kind of hit you are not a ton of fun. So
Well,
I would
the
advocate
part
for
where
that.
it is the conversation between the city and the county is where it gets complicated, right? It feels unfinished to me that it was a county road, there's no debating that. It was handed to us in poor condition, and that's not typically how that's supposed to happen. And they did make some improvements to it, after many, many years of talking about it. But certainly not the improvements that are going to cure this issue, or they're going to keep it from becoming poor condition again because of the type of usage that it gets. It probably needs to be constructed to a higher standard. And
it
so
had
I'd love to
black-
keep talking about that with the county, but honestly,
We
it just
do.
feels like a conversation that's not going to work.
It'd be nice to get it going somewhere, because, it did have blacktop on it, and even though the blacktop was in poor condition and really crappy condition, it still didn't leave houses full of dust and dirt and what they're getting now, with the fact that it's a gravel road. So
And there's
it seems like it went to one bad thing to another bad thing, in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, pros
So-
and cons about both the situations.
Correct.
And there's other gravel roads in the city.
Yeah, I know. I'm
But
just-
but I
I
get
think
that
it's the
there is a lot of
traffic issue that-
traffic.
I
I mean,
think that-
just you hit summertime and not everyone coming and going just from the baseball games.
Yeah, I know. I think the traffic is what's driving the
Mhm.
problem here, and we've had this conversation before. many
Yeah, and
times.
I mean, calcium chloride's not going to be a cure-all. And it only helps for a little bit.
Yep.
And the real way to fix it is to pave it.
Yep.
So back to, I might have missed this in the flurry of exchange, then who put that on yesterday or today?
Well, so we did.
The city did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
no, I don't
No.
know if anybody
We-
put
we
anything on
haven't put any
yesterday.
on.
I don't think anything's on it right now. I
I was-
noticed the golf
No,
course road.
whoa.
Okay, I got
No.
communication back that occurred. That's what I'm
I
I
asking.
would
Did it
communicate too, because I was there.
Great.
Oh, you
So
saw
that's-
it happen?
It did occur?
Yeah.
That's what I was
Oh, okay.
I
I
was-
didn't know
So I
that.
thought,
given.
I mean,
and
it's
I
a,
thought you said.
it's a
I
typical
The city didn't do it.
maintenance practice that occurs on gravel roads.
Right. Golf
So-
course road
County
was
did it?
done.
I don't know if that's a coincidence in timing.
Might be a coincidence in timing, because today I noticed the golf
I
course
figured.
road
Yeah.
was calcium chlorided, and the
Oh.
golf course road
Yeah.
was, so
But if
maybe
you
they
said
did.
the city didn't
I'll
do it, I was
follow
just
up
like, well,
with
then who
Robbie.
did it?
I'll follow up with Rob.
Okay, well, I'll drive up there and
There's
look at
really
it.
no
then.
need to. If it's done, it's done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, at least say thank you.
I just wanted to bring it up because it was a letter that we got.
Mhm. Got that one.
Another
That makes,
one.
and I just, wasn't that part of the conversation, well, a few years back with when Dave Mills was here, we had issues about up
Boy.
too?
That's been a
It's
lot of years
happened a
now.
lot.
And with Kristen was here as well, we talked about, and really with Kristen, we were developing an idea where
Right.
we would cooperate to do a real improvement project
Yep.
and get it paved, and then we would stop talking about whose road it is, it would be the city's, and that would be the end of it. But we didn't quite get all the way
We
there.
didn't get to the,
So it has to be brought back up again?
yep.
I mean, and on the list of things that we have to talk about with the county, I don't know how that's gonna make it to the top anytime soon either.
We have
Yeah.
service level agreements to talk about too.
Okay, but it can be there. Okay, back to signage. The Bear and the Voyager, which I know I brought up, but along with that came comments about that lovely water garden again, and thank you, Keena Macy, for taking care of the other side of the street, making it look so nice, but the other side doesn't look so attractive. And then there's thought about, those are really big landmarks, and there's a lot of planting around them in general. Maybe we need to look at some basic re-landscaping just to make them the visual that they should be in an enhanced way, but also that the main point that caught my eye, of course, was the bear, and we talked about that already, but we need to create a plan, and this is not pointing at you to get this all done without whatever, but we
You
need
can't
to
say
get it on
without
the
pointing
to-do
at me.
list.
I don't mind.
Well, we can bring
to
it up
get
to
the
the
bear
community and
cleaned
be
up.
like, hey, people who helped out with the last one, like, you want to do a little bit more?
Well, but there's,
Who painted them last time?
that was Yarrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's fine, but I mean, the whole deal was, you look at the Voyager on both sides, he's fine. It's only the bear on both sides, and there's that cedar tree. So my guess is the cedar tree is the one influencing it. But a lot of the plantings have just kind of,
Yeah, that's 50 years past its planned date.
right.
We actually looked at a lot of ideas during the Highway 61 design process that included that space. And it didn't end up being included in MnDOT's project, but we've got some ideas that CJ drew up that I think are still worth looking at
I mean,
in
it
terms
doesn't-
of having the park board do some landscape plans.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be like anything big, but just maybe let's make sure that's visible again, maybe where the trees are placed are different, whatever, and then that nice little rain garden just,
It was going to disappear.
like
that
my
one.
yard.
And,
Yeah.
and actually, the idea was to make those paved areas go right up to the walls,
Yeah,
so they're
so it'd be
accessible.
like
So
a
less
sitting area.
landscaping, much more
Oh, I see
access
what you
to the
Up to the curb wall.
the wall
I
and
see.
the
Like it would be-
signs.
Yeah, that whole area would be like a seating
paved
area
thing,
kind of
got it.
thing.
Okay. Well,
Little plaza feel to it.
oh,
That's
I
one of the
remember that when I
designs.
said, no, I don't think our downtown needs one. We've already got the lake for that. I don't think I want to encourage a bunch of people to go across the Highway 61 and have a picnic.
They already do.
They got the library lawn. That's
Yeah.
the only place to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Wait, what? Are we at the end?
Oh my God, I just had to double check myself. I think we are. I know. Thank you
We'll
all
meet
for your
again in
patience
He's
this
being
evening.
the sassy.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
be
usually
back.
the
We'll be
sassy.
back.
Okay. All right, you can, when you remember the next thing, like Melissa. you can-
Oh, I did.
Why'd you say that?
North Shore Management Board meeting, a lot of
There
it was
you go.
just annual whatevers, renewing contracts, things like of that nature. The only thing I found interesting was they wanted to talk about short-term rental. And I thought, that's an odd thing for North Shore Management Board. And they said that's the only time Tim Nelson has that conversation with the other counties, is within that meeting setting, which I thought was very interesting. So don't you guys communicate in other ways about this? Because the one woman from Lake County on the board is Tim's mirror there.
Mhm.
And of course, Lake County has its moratorium right now, and then the city of Duluth did some changes as well. But I found that interesting. And I'll let it go at that. So surprised. Thought that was an unusual forum for that.
That seems strange.
Mhm.
All right. I had a post-board meeting. We talked about I'm slowly learning the breadth of what the post board takes care of and does with the state. And the certification of educational institutions that do peace officer training is one of the responsibilities of the post board, as well as policies and protocols, as well as adjudication of complaints and other such things. And we do all of these things in the meeting, in different parts of the meeting, as well as considering changes in policies and or variances that can be written for educational institutions and or people who have likewise experience for operating peace, for being an operating peace officer within the state. Largely that's people who move to Minnesota from other states, have a ton of experience where they came from, have taken the bridge classes that they need to take to become a peace officer in the state of Minnesota, and they get a variance to be allowed. So this meeting was a lot of the same, talking about policies that need to be changed or need to be adapted to kind of keep things kind of up to speed with the current atmosphere, and we recertified a bunch of educational institutions that do peace officer training in the state of Minnesota, and added an extra one. So it's something that we're hoping to keep the atmosphere positive for law enforcement officers in the state of Minnesota. So there's that. And then I apologize that for public comment, there was an email that I received that made a request to be included in public comment that I did not read. So I do believe that all counselors have received this, and the administrator has received this as well. This is from Jason Zimmer. He says, "Greetings, Mayor and City Councilors, Administrator Mike Roth at Grand Marais, Minnesota. sending this email to you in regards to the meeting coming up for July 13th, 2022, as described on the agenda. F, North House proposal with the possible sale purchase of city-owned property, 510 Highway 61, and then he lists the tax parcel 80-020-4125, currently being leased by the North House Folk School from the city of Grand Marais. I believe that if this property possibly should move forward in the process of a sale, that it be opened up not only to North House Folk School, but to the general public also. And with that being said, I would like to enter into the process and negotiations with the city of Grand Marais, also as a potential buyer of the property at 510 West Highway 61 from the city of Grand Marais, should the city of Grand Marais decide to enter into a sale of said property. Unable to attend this meeting for July 13th at 6:30 due to prior engagement and step up and speak during the public comment period, would like this letter to be on the public record. Publicly noted that I, Jason Zimmer, is also interested in pursuing the purchase and negotiations of this property at this time. Signed respectfully, Jason Zimmer. So that's, apologize for missing that. There were a lot of emails that I got that talked about all that stuff. So that's all I have. Michael?
We had mine.
That's right, you did yours, that's true.
That was plenty. So I'm done.
Okay, Mike, Kim, Patrick?
Oh, we've got one hire that we would have liked to have thrown into the packet but didn't have ready. Jordan Backstrom as golf course laborer, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, this has come as a recommendation.
Please
from-
hire Jordan Backstrom as golf course
There you
laborer.
go.
I would make that motion.
You're gonna
I would
make a
second that motion.
Okay, I'm making the motion to hire Jordan.
I'm gonna second it.
Michael is seconding it. Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Congratulations, Jordan. Anything further?
Before we do leave tonight, I mean, should we, as you were suggesting, should we plan a next step to address North House now before we leave? Otherwise it sits for another meeting again before we even decide if what is, we have a closed meeting, and what do we want to do so we don't let this sit and we start having our conversations?
What do you want to do?
I would like to have a closed meeting. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense, because we can certainly be more candid in that and have that
And
kind
I
of.
can include your topic.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it's not like it's
No, I know. Yeah.
We can do that as.
What's your topic?
I don't know, but I was just agreeing because she was being
Appraisal.
agreeable.
Appraisal.
Oh,
Appraisal.
like whether or
Appraisal.
not to get one? Yeah, you could certainly
Or
talk
whatever.
about
I
that
mean,
in a meeting.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
Jay, you won't be
Close.
invited.
Nope, I will not be invited, and that would be turned over to you to close the meeting in that
Yeah.
situation.
So do you
So
want
we
to
could
just
just have a
place
little-
that on your next agenda at the end of the meeting?
Yeah, we could just let Jay go early.
I don't know.
That's never
July.
The end of the month, last,
Oh my God, we'll be here till midnight.
no,
Isn't that
because
the
there'll be
night
nothing
we-
else on the agenda.
No, we have our other session earlier, right? Isn't that
That's
the night
the
we have-
26th.
The 26th.
This will be the 27th.
Oh, is that Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we
Yeah.
settled on Tuesday, sorry, never mind.
27th.
Okay. Sure, why not another summer evening,
I will be
locked
here.
in a building?
Yes, I will be here.
If you've got other ideas about scheduling, we would love to hear them.
No, I'm just being
Oh.
a smart mouth.
Okay.
Anything further? Anything further? Hearing none, we have concluded our business for the night. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, thank you,
Thanks, Chris.
Chris.